Happy Cinco de Mayo. I hope that your shelter in place Cinco de Mayo is as good as the previous ones, and you've got a plane to keep you going with the family and have a good rest of your day and evening. But to kind of give you a little bit of data of where things are going in the market, we got some interesting stuff happening with the Fed, and they're quote unquote tapering back on the purchasing of mortgage-backed securities. In the past, when we look at quantitative easing, we are seeing massive amounts of money going in there. 20, 30, 40 billion dollars a month was going in. When they started the quantitative easing process, January 2009, their major surge is into the end of March 2010. $1.25 trillion going into the mortgage-backed securities pools, bring the rates down, get the activity going in the real estate market, help the economy. That was massive, $80 billion a month, 80 plus billion. I thought that was crazy numbers. Well, now we're looking at these last few weeks, 8, 9, $10 billion a day going in. Now they're tapering back. This week saying, like yesterday, we're only gonna do about 6 billion. Today, about 5.5 billion to keep the market steady. That's some staggering numbers. That's 130 plus billion dollars a month. If you look at their max amount that they shoved in during this whole global COVID interrupt, sorry, my mouth's getting all over the place here. The global COVID interrupt is kind of what I'm looking at this as. They were doing 160 to 165 billion in a week. That's staggering to consider how much money has been shoved into the mortgage-backed securities to bridge that big gap. I mean, we'll go back to look at the charts here to show that massive amount of money that came in. You see where these declines came, where they bought back into it. Now, this is a different coupon that we're typically looking at. This is not the 4.0 coupon. The 4.0 coupon we saw just continue to keep driving down until this day, and then it pushed up. This is I believe, the 3.0 coupon that we're looking at here. But this is so I can illustrate kind of what the Fed is looking at. They're focusing on this coupon more than the 4.0. Now, the 4.0 is what we as investors take a look at. So when you're looking at this one, this is back, if you remember, March 30th, Barry had him on the show before, conversation about what was going on. He reached out to the Fed through his sources to communicate, you want to not get too crazy about this purchasing thing, and that's why they're tapering off and keeping it nice and flat. Well, this is March 30th when that happened. Well, if we draw a line here from where that day ended, and we look at where things are now, today, look at how steady that is. Look at that flat line we got in there. That's pretty darn awesome to consider what was done there, and that the Fed is keeping really, really close tabs on what they're doing. This was them kind of messing with it, getting an understanding of it. Now you can see with their 8 billions, yesterday was 6 billion in purchases, today 5.5, keeping it right in that line. So, very well done there. So we're not really seeing a lot happening when it comes to the interest rates fluctuating all over the place. They're trying to keep it a predictable direction for the time being. So that right now at least makes me feel a little bit more I guess secure in when we're making these interest rate quotes and quotes for people looking at purchasing some properties and where it's probably going to end up going. Now, when you also consider, we've got the 25-day moving average here that we're looking at as well. That right there, we'll see how that plays out. That I'm thinking the Fed, hopefully, I'm guessing what they're doing is seeing if they can get that to where it stabilizes its own base and creates its own trading range without them having to be involved. So we'll see how that all plays out, and what the end result happened to be there. Now, we're going to go and switch over to another screen, something I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit more than just the market. This is going to be just a basic calculator screen that we're getting into here. So one of the things that I think that many people fail to look at, too often they look at, okay, now is the time I need to buy real estate because the interest rates are low. It's a great time because of low rates. I mean, this is historically amazing when you consider the rates that we're dealing with today. Not so awesome when you think about the circumstances around it that's driving the interest rates. But one of the things I like to get into is it's not about the rate, the cash on cash return, those kind of things. There's more to it. So we're going to go in stages. Today's thing to think about, I want everybody to kick around, is the amortization of the loan. So let's talk about, in this particular deal, we're going to do a $100,000 purchase, and you're going to be doing a 20% down. So we're going to take an 80% loan to value, right? So now you're looking at, all right, so I did that one wrong. Let's go back and redo that. So we're going to be doing 100, and of course, one screen's in front of the other, so I'm having to move this stuff around. So we're talking about $100,000 purchase, and we'll do 80% of that with your 20% down. That's an $80,000 loan, right? Well, if you purchased correctly as the CEO of your real estate investment business, and you purchased a home that stays reasonably rented during the entire time that you own it, the tenant is the one paying down this note, right? They're going to be paying it down over 30 years. So you divide that by 30, which is how many years it's going to take for them to pay that off. They're going to be paying down an average of $2,666.66 per year. Now, I do know that there's an amortization table, so this is not precise, but this just kind of gives you an average to consider. So that's $2,666.66. We can divide that into the 20,000 that you put down. You had a 13.33% return or growth on your 20,000. So that means your 20,000 that you invested every single year will grow by $2,666.66 per year, right? On the average, this is averaging over 30 years. That's a 13.33% increase of the original $20,000. How many accounts are doing that? How many other investments do you have that are doing that? I'll just be brutal right here. If you have something else that's doing that well, you're perfectly justified jumping onto your roof, dropping your pants and showing the whole world how big your investment balls are, because you are doing awesome. This is something the real estate investor gets to do just by picking up a good, solid property, working with a good property management team, working with a good team that put the property together for you and keeps your business flowing. That's possible before cash flow, before appreciation, before hedge against inflation, before factoring in great interest rates or cash on cash return or any of these other things. That right there is possible, or it's not even possible, that's just happening just by leveraging the property at 80% loan to value. That's the first thing we're going to be talking about here, something I want you to kick around, understand for the real benefits in real estate. It's not just cash flow. It's not just cash on cash return. It's not just cap rate. There's all great metrics to consider, but look at that one little thing. Look at what's possible right there. Next time we get back on here, we'll talk about the next thing that I believe is the other opportunities, investment real estate, the other places where I think people should be thinking beyond just what's my cash flow or what's my cash on cash return. Again, great metrics, but it's not the end all be all. That is the cherry on top of the sundae. And if you've watched The Big Short, you'll know what I'm talking about with the cherry on the sundae. That's cash flow is just the cherry. There's a lot of sundae under there that's going to make you very, very wealthy.